Day 183. The city, once a cacophony of car horns and sirens, now lay sprawled in an eerie silence. Buildings scraped the sky, monuments to a world gone by. Only the wind howled through the concrete canyons, a lonely symphony for the last man standing. Or so I thought. This whole apocalypse thing, best thing ever. No more traffic jams, no more annoying neighbors, no more listening to my boss drone on about quarterly reports. Just me, my trusty shotgun Betsy, and a whole world ripe for the picking. Speaking of picking, the grocery store down the street is still stocked with goodies. Expired, sure, but beggars can't be choosers, right? Besides, a little thing like a best before date never hurt anyone. Well, except maybe that one time with the chili. Let's just say I learned my lesson about expired canned goods the hard way. Still, the loneliness does get to you sometimes. The silence can be deafening when you're the only one around to hear it. My name's Samuel, by the way, but you can call me Sam. Sam the Survivor. That's what they'd call me if there was anyone left to do the calling. I like to think of myself as a resourceful kind of guy, a regular Bear Grylls of the zombie apocalypse. Except, I prefer a good shotgun to a makeshift spear. Survival's all about adapting, and boy, have I adapted. I've turned my apartment building into an impenetrable fortress, complete with tripwires, booby traps, and enough firepower to take down a small army. Zombies, scavengers, telemarketers. Nothing gets past my defenses. I've also gotten pretty good at scavenging. I've got a knack for finding the good stuff. Canned peaches, beef jerky, top-shelf whiskey. Once even stumbled upon a lifetime supply of toilet paper. Trust me, in this new world order, that's like striking gold. The absolute, unadulterated freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't been all sunshine and roses. I've had my fair share of close calls. Like that time I got cornered in the bakery by a horde of those flesh-hungry fiends. Managed to escape by chucking a bag of flour in their faces. Blinded them long enough for me to make a break for it. Still, I could hear their groans echoing behind me as I sprinted down the street, their hunger a constant reminder of the danger lurking around every corner. Then there was that other time I got trapped in a sporting goods store. Irony, right? Surrounded by weapons, but couldn't get to any of them. Ended up having to fight my way out with nothing but a hockey stick and a prayer. But hey, I'm still here, ain't I? Still kicking, still breathing, still cracking wise. It's all about perspective, my friend. Throughout this whole ordeal, I've learned a thing or two about staying alive. Rule number 1, never trust a whisper. Sounds crazy, right? But trust me, in the silence of the apocalypse, even the faintest sound can be deceiving. It could be the wind whistling through a broken window, or it could be a pack of those flesh-eating monsters, their rotting feet shuffling towards you with deadly intent. Rule number 2, always double tap. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, overkill. But when it comes to zombies, there's no such thing as being too careful. Those suckers are persistent, man, they just keep coming, no matter how many times you put them down. So you gotta make sure they stay down. Rule number 3, never ever get attached. Get. 6 months. 6 months I've been roaming these empty streets, the sole survivor in a city of ghosts. 6 months of scavenging, fighting, and trying to outrun the crushing loneliness that threatened to consume me. I had resigned myself to this solitary existence, convinced that I was the last flicker of humanity in a world consumed by darkness. Until today. I was making my daily rounds, picking off a few stragglers that had wandered too close to my perimeter, when I saw her. A flash of movement in the window of a building I had written off months ago. My heart pounded in my chest, a drum against my ribs. Could it be? Was there actually someone else out there? Cautiously, I approached the building, my senses on high alert. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to retreat to the safety of my solitude. But something drew me forward, a flicker of hope in the desolate wasteland of my heart. I had to know. Taking a deep breath, I peered into the dusty window. And that's when I saw her. Her hair was the color of spun gold, cascading down her back in tangled waves. Her skin, though pale from lack of sunlight, held a healthy glow, but it was her eyes that captivated me. Emerald green, they shone with a fierce intelligence that pierced through the grime and fear. She looked up as she heard me, her gaze wary, her hand instinctively reaching for a weapon I couldn't see. "Don't shoot," I said, my voice raspy from disuse. I'm not gonna hurt you. The words felt strange on my tongue, rusty from lack of use. For months, the only conversations I'd had were with myself and the occasional stray cockroach. She didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed, her body tense. I couldn't blame her for her suspicion. Trust was a luxury we could no longer afford. She lowered her weapon slowly, a sigh escaping her lips. "You're not," she said, her voice soft but steady. "There are others." Hope surged through me, a tidal wave threatening to drown the loneliness that had been my constant companion for so long. Others. The word echoed in my mind, a beacon of light in the darkness. We spent the next few hours talking, sharing stories of survival, of loss, of the world that was and the world that was yet to be. Her name was Sarah, and she was every bit as strong and resourceful as she was beautiful. She told me about her group, a small band of survivors holed up in an old library a few miles from here. They had food, water, and most importantly, each other. For the first time since the outbreak, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't dared to hope for: belonging. The crushing weight of solitude that had been pressing down on me for months began to lift. The decision was a no-brainer. The next morning, we packed what few supplies we had and set off towards the library. Sarah, armed with a crossbow and an arsenal of knives, moved with the grace and agility of a seasoned hunter. Her emerald eyes, sharp and alert, missed nothing. I, on the other hand, felt like a kid on Christmas morning, my trusty shotgun Betsy slung over my shoulder, a goofy grin plastered on my face. For the first time in a long time, I had someone to watch my back, someone to share the burden of survival with. The silence that had once been deafening now buzzed with anticipation. The journey was fraught with danger. We avoided the main roads, sticking to the shadows and alleys, our senses on high alert. We encountered a few stragglers along the way, but nothing we couldn't handle. Sarah was a crack shot with her crossbow, taking them down swiftly and silently. It was during one such encounter that we realized something was different. We had stumbled upon a small group of zombies, their moans echoing through the abandoned buildings. We took aim, ready to dispatch them with our usual efficiency, when one of them did something we'd never seen before. It ducked. Not a full-on dodge, but a definite dip of the head, enough to avoid Sarah's expertly aimed crossbow bolt. The bolt whizzed past its ear, embedding itself in the wall behind it. The zombie turned its head, its milky eyes seeming to focus on us with a chilling awareness we hadn't witnessed before. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of our hearts. I nodded, my grip tightening on Betsy. This wasn't the shambling, mindless horde we were used to. These creatures were different. They were evolving. We made it back to the library just as the sun was setting, the sky ablaze with fiery hues of orange and red. We burst through the doors, breathless and frantic, our words tumbling over each other as we described our encounter. The look on their faces was a mixture of disbelief and dread. We didn't have much time. As if on cue, a low growl echoed from outside, followed by the telltale sounds of shuffling feet and snapping bones. The horde had arrived. We barricaded the doors, the air thick with tension and fear. The library, once a sanctuary of knowledge and peace, was now a battleground. We fought with everything we had, our weapons a symphony of death against the relentless onslaught of the undead. But these weren't the slow, lumbering creatures we were accustomed to. The battle raged for what felt like an eternity, the air thick with the stench of decay and the coppery tang of blood. We lost some good people that night, their sacrifices a stark reminder of the brutality of our new world. But through it all, Sarah and I fought side by side, our bond forged in fire and blood. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the boarded-up windows, we finally managed to repel the horde. Exhausted but alive, we surveyed the carnage, the silence a deafening contrast to the battle that had raged just moments before. We had survived, for now, but we knew this was only the beginning. The zombies were evolving, becoming more cunning, more deadly. We had to evolve with them, to adapt, to become even stronger, even more resourceful. But we didn't have to do it alone. We had each other. We would create a new world from the ashes of the old, together.